through the night and this morning because of what happened with the whole ceasefire announcement, and it just, kind of blew up in the manner that it did, not from the Indian side, but certainly from the American and the Pakistani side. What has happened is that, it has left everyone wanting to know exactly where India stands, and hopefully that clarification would come.
Totally, Shivani. So let me extrapolate from what we already know. There have been a few press conferences where the MEA, the diplomatic channel and the military channel through two lady officers have been able to convey what was happening in Op Sindoor. It's not a hidden fact. It's there on the table for the world to see. And they have talked about not only the intent of our country and the will, they've also talked about measured targeting and even showed videos and photographs and footage, and that has been released. What has happened since then is that there was a ceasefire call, and that ceasefire call was finally between the two DGMOs, about which the secretary at the MEA briefed the country yesterday, and thereafter there was a violation from the Pakistani side. Post that midnight, to serve tea to Trump, Mr. Shehbaz Sharif went on air to claim victory.
Yes.
So the so-called notion of victory has been claimed by Pakistan, and while they are tom-tomming everywhere, their own country is asking the right questions. However, there has been an environment of a little bit of angst and anxiety amongst the Indian citizens in diaspora since last night as to what was the role play of the government of USA and whether the term used of mediation was appropriate or the term helping the situation was more appropriate. Both have come from President Trump in two different, tweets and whatever the conversation from there. Now, when the DGMO is coming onto the table, so he comes from the perspective of the strategic and the operational nuances of this operation. Obviously, after the 7 LKM meeting this afternoon, there has been something laid out which concerns the Prime Minister's office, it concerns the NSA, it concerns the Indian military, and it 100% concerns the MEA, that what is going to be said by the military DGMO today before we go on to 12 p.m. tomorrow, where there is another DGMO likely
conversation
call up between India and Pakistan.
Yes.
So any country as powerful as us, I agree with the previous speaker, does not have to divulge nuances which the world or the country ought not to know. However, the country ought need to know actually today is that whether this notion of victory needs to be demolished. And I am quite sanguine that this notion of victory being created by Pakistan will be demolished in a very mature fashion by the DGMO. Whether the DGMO thereafter goes and talks about what kind of destruction has been carried out, and you have heard the Raksha Mantri talking about the use of BrahMos when asked. He has mentioned a target area called Rawalpindi. So India has very, very maturely constrained its bites to the world, whereas Pakistan has reached the pinnacle of giving, PVSM to each other there across the border, and profusely Shehbaz Sharif thanking President Trump. So there is a triangle of three countries. At one hand, you have Pakistan profusely thanking Trump. On the other hand, it is Trump thanking both India and Pakistan. And then there is India, who has thanked nobody except its armed forces.
Yeah.
So I think that is why it is important for the world to know the geopolitical nuance. And I am quite sanguine that the DGMO will hint towards it.
Okay.
The final briefing on that part will come through the MEA probably tomorrow after the DGMOs have spoken.
Yes. Whatever is ongoing is obviously they're not going to reveal. But I think because of what has transpired in the last 12 to 16 hours.
The last bit,
go ahead.
The operational part I didn't cover. So there has been a very mature response of the escalation radar. The cases value given due to the Pahalgam attack, thereafter attacking civilians and then attacking our military bases. Obviously, there has been a reciprocal, initiative from our armed forces, and at some places we have been a little proactive, especially after this struck our military bases. The DGMO may give a little deeper account of that as well, since it's already been given by the previous exposed persons, in the last 2 days. So I think that collation might happen, because this particular brief through various channels, podcast, YouTube, will circle back and go to Pakistan as well, which is very, very important to tell that what is the leverage coming out through this ceasefire, which we have granted to Pakistan. the operation is still on. So I think that nuanced part of the operation being on and granting this pause for Pakistan to mend its ways, I'm not too sure if the DGMO will list the conditions told to President Trump's administration. That may be a
that
different
might
call
well
by the
be under the
PMO.
MEA's brief, but I think
Yes,
the DGMO's holding a press conference means that we could get a better idea of the military operations.